told me that VO2 max is the single most important metric when looking at someone's longevity. How much truth do you think's in that?
I think that absolutely he's right. I think VO2 max is one of the single, and the thing I love about it is that it's something that you can measure. It's a biomarker. I think it's one of the most important things. Absolutely. And there's some evidence that like doing this vigorous exercise is important, but it has to be like a longer interval type of exercise. So, at least 1 minute, that would be sort of the minimum, but like better if you can get to 4 minutes. So there's something called the Norwegian 4x4 protocol. And that's 4 minutes at the highest intensity that you can maintain for that entire 4 minutes, followed by 3-minute recovery of like light exercise. I mean, you want your heart rate to come down so that you could do it again 4 times, right? So
sounds
the Norwegian
miserable. Sounds absolutely miserable.
The Norwegian 4x4, and there was a study, and I like this is one of the studies that inspired me, and this was a study out of UT Southwest in Dallas, and the study took 50-year-olds that were healthy, but they were not physically active, so they didn't have like type 2 diabetes and all that, but they weren't active.
They're also detrained.
Exactly, they're detrained, and they put them on a pretty intensive training protocol for 2 years. Okay, 2 years. It was a 2-year intervention, and it was a progressive protocol. So obviously when you have an untrained person, you don't just right out the bat, Norwegian 4x4, day 1. No, that's not going to happen. So it took them 6 months to kind of work up their training, right? Their endurance. And by the time they got to their 6-month mark, they were doing about, 4 hours a week of what's called maximal intensity exercise. So this is vigorous. This is
4 hours a week of maximal intensity.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they were basically doing, it was like as high as you can maintain, vigorous intensity workout for 30 minutes, basically. So they're doing these 30-minute workouts where you're doing like 75-80% max heart rate for 30 minutes.
Okay.
So
but they're doing that 8 times a week.
Yeah. I mean, so no, they're doing other things as well. So they're doing, it's not, when I say 4 hours a week, they're exercising 4 hours a week.
Oh,
they're
right.
also
I thought you meant they were doing 4 hours of this Norwegian 4x4.
No. They were doing exercise 4 hours a week.
Okay.
But they were doing, a majority of that was maximal intensity exercise. So a lot of that was, they were doing like 30-minute sessions of this.
All right.
And I think they were probably doing like 1.5 to 2 hours of that.
Yep.
And then they were also doing some strength training. And then they were doing the Norwegian 4x4. So there was kind of a nice sort of balanced. And then the control group was doing this sort of, I say strength training, but it was more, I guess, body weight, kind of stuff. The control group was doing that. So it was a type of sort of body weight training, but it wasn't high intensity. Like it wasn't like the CrossFit kind of stuff that you could do. It was more like lower stretching kind of stuff, maybe yoga-ish kind of thing. And so after 2 years, these people, like the cardiac structure. So as we age, our heart gets smaller and it gets stiffer. And this happens, it's like part of aging, that results in a lot of things. So cardiovascular disease risk goes up, but also like your exercise performance and capacity goes down. So after that 2 years of, doing this pretty vigorous intensity exercise protocol, the 50-year-olds, they reversed their cardiac structure aging by 20 years. So their hearts were looking more like 30-year-old hearts versus 50-year-old hearts. And this was after 2 years of doing this. And to me, it was so motivating to go, wow, these 50-year-olds can do this. Like these were untrained people who don't usually work out. And by the end of this 2 years, I mean, they were like getting at it. And so I've, kind of stepped up my game a bit. Also, like I've got a coach coming and I'm working with 2 days a week I'm doing a lot of, it's like a resistance training, but like kind of interval as well. So I'm getting the high heart rate and that interval training.
So funny to see Peter Attia and yourself kind of converge on this new. It's not as if it's new, but it was definitely something that I wasn't hearing about 4 years ago. I wasn't hearing people talk about this. Everything was zone 2. It was, like go slow to go fast or whatever the tagline is. And one of the problems with zone 2 is that you need quite a high duration, like by design, because, 45 minutes or an hour multiple times per week, which is actually difficult. So lots of benefits of improving VO2 max. take us through the Norwegian 4x4 again, and then what else is in there? If there was a protocol or a number of protocols you were going to design, here's a program that you can take away today into your gym and do that will help to improve your VO2 max. What would you tell people?
I would say the Norwegian 4x4 is by far the best, and you're going to get for the people that are really determined and committed. That would be it. That would be the 4 minutes of the exercise intensity as hard as you can go and maintain it for that entire 4 minutes. So obviously,
just dig into that. What do you mean? As hard as you can go and maintain it. What does that mean?
It means you don't want to go like all out, like 95% of your max heart rate, because then you can only last for like a minute. And so then you're going to go down. You're going to slow down, right? So what it means is like you want to go. It might, for some people, it might be like 75% max heart rate, right? So some people might be 80%, but you want to go as hard as you can for the 4 minutes without like really slowing down. So you kind of have to pace yourself a little bit, but you don't want to go too slow, right? Like you definitely can't be talking. Like you should not be able to talk for sure when you're doing it. So it's hard enough that you just absolutely can't talk, but it's not all out. So
4 minutes.
4 minutes and then 3 minutes of totally light, like you're going all the way. This is like, you're like back to like zone 1, if you want to call it something.
If your heart can come down,
if your heart
quickly.
can come down, yeah. And you're doing that for 3 minutes because you want to recover so that you can do it again. And you repeat it. It's a 4-time protocol. So you do it once and then you repeat it 3 times, or you just call it the 4x4. I think that's probably one of the best protocols to improve VO2 max. Now, Dr. Martin Gabala, I've had him on my podcast. He's a real expert on these high intensity interval training protocols. He does a lot of research on it at McMaster University in Ontario, Canada. And he also says there's evidence that a 1 minute protocol, so like just even doing like an interval, like 1 minute interval, and then doing that like, a few times also can improve VO2 max. So that's a little easier. And also it's easier. Like I do 1 minute intervals. I'm trying to now incorporate the 4x4 into my routine, which is coaches help with that. So, but I
imagine it's a motivation thing, which is probably one of the biggest hurdles to get over, that just, if you've got any program in front of you that isn't the Norwegian 4x4 for the day, you go, maybe it's back and biceps, or maybe I'll just go for a little jog. It's like mañana.
Yeah, it is. But again, like I said, you try to make it consistent. So
frequency per week.
Well, the Norwegian 4x4 would be like 1 time a week.
Oh, okay. And that's
the hard day.
That's less
the
miserable.
Hard day. It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any benefit to going twice per week?
What's going on?
Probably, yeah.
It'd have been so much better if you'd said,
but these 50-year-olds, these 50-year-olds did it 1 time a week for 2 years, and they reversed their cardiac structure aging by 20 years. Of course, they were also doing other vigorous intensity exercise. It wasn't the torturous Norwegian 4x4.
Yep. So if Norwegian 4x4 is gold standard at the moment for improving VO2 max, what would be some examples of other vigorous exercise workouts? What else is in that bucket?
Well, people can do what they enjoy doing. So you can go for a run. Like I often go for a run and, I'm doing 75, 80% my max heart rate. Usually it's like a 20-minute run that I do that, so like as intense as you can maintain for 20 minutes. Like that's what you want to do. You want to kind of get that, you get a feeling for that. So if you like runs, because there's a lot of benefits to running, you're out in nature. Well, I guess some people do it on a treadmill. I'm not so big on treadmills. Like I'll do them like when I go to a gym or something, traveling, but I like running out in nature. I think there's lots of benefits to doing that. Some people like to get on their bike and cycle. So like you can just get on your bike and do a 20 to 30 minute, 75, 80% max heart rate cycle, right?
So what we're aiming for here is 75 to 80% max heart rate for around about 20-minute exposure. You
could do like a high intensity interval training. So high intensity interval training would be, you're going to go more than 80%, right? You're going to do like more of like a sub-maximal, perhaps even a maximal interval. So you can go up to 90, 95% max heart rate. So that would be, I mean, obviously you can only maintain that for like so long, right? Some people might be 30-second pushes.
Like a Tabata style thing, perhaps.
Tabata. I do a lot of Tabatas as well. Oftentimes I like to do something every day, most days of the week. And it's funny, I kind of adopted this routine when I was kind of trying to do a little bit like Joe Rogan's Sober October, but it was like every day October. I was trying to work out every day. And I noticed, I was like, I could do this. I'm doing it for like 1 month. And I wasn't going as hard as like those guys doing the Sober October where they were like competition. It was like, they were just
air bike in the sauna.
Like if you do